All right. So I have the first, I have all of the items in the agenda. Yeah, so the first one is a read-only for you to check on interesting feedback that we've had in the past. And UX priorities. And I was basically this morning looking at everything that I have on my plate at the moment that I expect to work on soon. Also looking at what we have in that Google Sheet that we're collaborating on for about the problem areas of code review, possible paths, issues, and trying to make some sense of it all. And yeah, I just want to start looking at all of the priorities that we have for the short term, and also to prepare the groundwork so that when Annabelle starts, she is already as onboarded as possible and ready to go. And so I have some suggestions here of what I was thinking, but I added this because I also want your thoughts, and it would be nice to then share this recording with Annabelle as well. Yeah, I can go quickly describing one by one, and if you have questions, you can interrupt me, or if you have any questions right now.
I don't have any questions, I guess, off the bat. I want to make sure I understood this. So this is sort of like what you think the next, I guess, like 2 quarters look like, 2 quarters to a year for you look like. Is that how you're thinking about this?
Yeah. The next quarter or two, things that we can say that more or less that we will be working on more in the future than this. I think it's difficult at the moment. But yeah, I wanted your thoughts because this has to align with everything else that the team is working on and thinking about. There are some things there. Let me highlight them. So there are some things here that are not necessarily personal, but let me highlight these in yellow, for example. So the ones in yellow are the ones that are more personal to me and don't have a direct impact on the group, but it's something that I want to work on outside of the code review milestone work. So the first thing is, and then just to make sure that is a correct interpretation, is that for the machine learning to suggest reviewers, we're still in the engineering phase. So it will take some time for us to get to a place where we can start thinking about the experience. Is that a correct assessment?
Yeah, I think my understanding, and I'm going to find these for you, is there are epics that do like integration milestones is the way they think about it. And so their integration milestones are supposed to last, I want to say 2 months each. And they're in the process of the first one. And I would guess they're like a month into that at this point, based on dates. So it's probably like another month of them moving architecture. I would expect probably starting in another 6 weeks, we might start to see stuff show up or start to like at least have something we can interact with maybe, or experience in a way, or need to start having those conversations. So we're probably still another like 4 to 6 weeks away. I'm trying to
Okay.
find.
Of starting conversations about what the experience will be.
Yeah, I haven't been to a meeting in a couple weeks, but I'll make sure that we do that. I don't even know where their epics are. I'm looking at their agenda and I cannot find them. So.
Okay.
The flip side would be, I actually think that's fine. I think 4 to 6 weeks is fine, because otherwise, like, the other option would be try and experience unreview in its current form, and I don't think that really matters. Maybe it matters when you start thinking about experience, but I don't know that matters yet. So.
But today, Unreview doesn't have any representation in our UI, does it?
Correct, it does not.
Okay. Okay, yeah, so okay, let me know when you think, because you're I think invited to those weekly or bi-weekly meetings. Let me know how you're feeling about that and when you think might be a productive time for us to start talking about the UX, and then we can figure out how we're going to support that and who will be supporting that.
Okay, I can do that.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, so for me, so that's a point C pivotal leads. This is what I'm thinking right now is in the next milestone, I'm going to look at consolidating the MR actions. So following through with what Sanjung did, trying to put all of the main actions of the MR at the top. And so that would be doing a review of what we currently have to make sure all of the cases are covered and prepare solution validation for that. And also do a final design with mobile considerations. So that would take some time during that milestone, but I'm confident if I start doing that, we should have, or actually, let me see. So next milestone starts next week. And yeah, it's going to be short, a very, very short milestone for me. But yeah, I'm sure we will make some progress there.
Okay.
And at the same time, I'm wrapping up. So this says 14.3, but it should say 14.2. So the other item is measure MR's perceived performance. And that is an epic that has a couple of tasks there. And we're making progress on it. Me and Anne, the UX researcher, she's helping me out in this. I don't know if we will complete everything, but the ones that I'm mostly interested in, which are predicting the task times and trying to collect all of the performance information that we have about the merge request experience in one place in the handbook, that should be completed by 14.2. So that's also something that I'm thinking about. And also, I will try to see, once we have all of this together and we can look at the picture, understand how we as a group want to enhance it and what are the gaps in that data that we want to fill. And yeah, the other things that I said are more tangential work, aligning the code review direction. And that is, I think, a bit dependent on the conversations that we've been having. Another thing is sharing best practices, and that is another personal thing. One thing that I wanted to start in Q3 is to talk about removing features.
Before we talk about removing this one, your bullet 3, like align code review direction, what are you like thinking that actually means? Like in reality, what does that mean? Like, what is the outcome you hope for there?
Yeah. So that would be, okay, so that would be based on the conversations that we've been having and what we're putting together in the prioritization of problem areas, and also the surveys that we had sent out, the external and internal survey, and also what we discussed some time ago about aligning our direction to first and foremost make GitLab the company as efficient as possible, and align things to our code review practices, is to put all of that together into an updated direction where we clearly say, like, these are our goals for, or our themes for the next, I don't know. I don't know if I can say year, but at least the next 2 quarters, at least. And after that would be recording a video walkthrough of that, trying to explain that as best as possible, and trying to share that with the group, with the whole team, so that everyone on the team and the engineers feel like they know what the direction is and know where they can contribute ideas and start thinking about investigation work and so on. Yeah, that's how I'm thinking about it now. But at least it's in the end, the goal is to align our plan and our roadmap to user needs, and also I'm not going. I don't want to say customer requests, but to things that will improve user satisfaction and also our revenue, basically.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And this, yeah, I'm putting this under like Pedro leads, but in reality, this is not a work that I'll be doing alone. This is something that I want to work with you so that we can build something that is easy to communicate and makes and aligns with what we've discovered through research, basically.
Okay. Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think this is, I appreciate you highlighting this as an area that I think I've not done a great job like setting a direction, because I feel like we shifted out of feature work and into like sort of maintenance work. So yeah, I think this will be good to like sort of revisit and figure out what the next few quarters look like for us. So
cool. I'm glad you're positive about it, and I don't want to, like, I put this here, and you're right. Thank you for asking what this means, because I don't want it to look like I'm overstepping you or anything. It's a collaboration. And yeah, after that, there's something that I wanted to do that I've been trying to do for a long time, is to just, and I know we're instrumenting things in code review, but I want us to look at the data that we have through the lens of which features we can remove. Because we're just looking at data and say, hey, this has a lot of usage, this has low usage. But I think it's different when you say, let's intentionally look at things that might indicate that very few users use this, right? Or even if there's a better way for them to do something, so we will direct them to another feature perhaps, or something like that. And also gather and kind of rally the team to come up with ideas for things that we'd like to instrument, to know if we can remove them or not. And maybe at the end of this exercise, we realize we can't remove anything, or we're just going to remove this one feature. But I think it's better than nothing.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I don't know that GitLab ever removes anything, so I'm curious like how this path goes. I'd be interested to explore it. There's lots of things I'd love to remove, but I don't know if that's possible.
And yeah, let me put it this way: insert remove low usage features or options or UI elements. So one of the things that we removed was the jump to next and resolved thread button from each thread. And I was really proud about that. It was just a little button, but I was really proud that we did that. And so it doesn't have to be like a huge feature that no one uses. It might be small things that we can remove. So yeah, just remove things. And yeah, so then the other thing at the bottom bolded is the big theme to be decided, and we can talk about that later. Things that I'm probably going to be reviewing and maintaining during this time is one issue that is, I think, will be scheduled for 14.3.
14.2 and 3. Is it back in 14.2? Did I move it back in yet?
Is it?
Yeah, it's in 14.2.
14.2. Okay, so let me put that 14.2. That's something that I'll be just supporting and unblocking. And the other things are the merge widgets or the mergeability as well. So both the front end and back end, because I think those will need my support. And then finally, we have the merge requests that require my attention. And that right now there's that planning issue that I'm still waiting for Andre and Matt to tell me how they want to approach this and who will break down the work necessary for that. But it will probably require reviews and unblocking and, hey, we can't do this, so what are we going to do instead? And the other things that I'll be not doing but supporting, so delegate and support, is Mike Nichols is leading the framework for source code rules, and I'm pushing him to include and look and own the work that, not own the work, but own the responsibility of overseeing the work that secure, that container security is doing with the advanced approval rules, because this framework is looking at all of the source code rules, push rules, protected branches, approval rules, etc. And so that's part of that. And that's something that I don't want our group to be burdened with. And it makes sense to see all of this together. And so it makes sense to have another person doing that. So I'm delegating that to him, but supporting him throughout that process. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, I think that's fair. I think that's a good path with approvals for the time being. I think that makes the most sense.
Yeah. And I know you've been involved in a lot of the conversations as well. But I don't want this to, the thing that container security is doing, I don't want that to divert our attention from other things, and yours included, if you don't mind me saying that. But
yeah, I think that's fair. I think it's I'm hopeful we get a source code PM at some point, and then we can spread some of our cross-stage collaboration. You need to be paying attention to these things, sort of, and pass those things off.
Then we have the security tab in MR. I'll have to look at that this week again to figure out next steps. And finally, we have the framework for MR widgets, which is coming along very, very, very well. I'm very happy about the polish that the polishing work that Jeremy, Tim, and Amy are doing for visual design and the UI text of the MR widgets, which does not include the approvals widget or the merge widget, for example. It only includes what we call the report widgets. So it's coming along very well. And then we have another step here, which is the workflow interviews that Catherine did, but haven't finished the synthesizing of those interviews. Yeah, and I'm still discussing who would be the most appropriate person to continue that work, because what I would like is to have Tim Noah. He's articulating, facilitating the short-term work for the merge request widgets, that polishing that I was just mentioning. But I would like for him to stay and continue doing the work for the long term, because although the merge request widgets are very important in the code review experience, because people review that experience, review those widgets as part of the code review process, it's something that we're kind of taking the responsibility for, but in the end, we're not building them, and we're not like the primary advocates for those reports. So I'd prefer to have someone else do this work, and we will be there to support them. In the same way that we're not building the security tab, but it will affect the merge request experience. So we will support them in that journey. So yeah, I'm still discussing how that will continue. Any questions at this point?
No, I think that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, then there are a couple of smaller but still important things that I'm still undecided on whether it will be me or Annabelle working on them. One of them is doing another performance audit from a user point of view. So I did that for the review tasks, so loading the diffs, commenting, resolving, starting a review, and all of that. But I didn't include the tasks of creating a merge request. So that's something that I'm planning for us to do in the next quarter. And it won't take the full quarter. It will be done whenever we have some capacity, so that we can, if possible, highlight some small things that we could do to improve the user's perception of performance without having to completely redesign the backend. Does that make sense?
Yep.
All right. And the other one is improving the merge widget UI text, which is something I started doing with Amy. But I would like to see with Annabelle if this is something that she has some personal intentions on working on it, and if UI text is something that she wants to improve her skills on or whatever. So I have to see how that goes with her. And then I have these things for 14.3, which is the milestone that Annabelle will start, that I think could be smaller things for her to work on. So one of them is improve commenting loading states. And it's basically one of the things that came out of that audit, which is to have a consistent experience when we're submitting comments and how that looks like the loading state. And right now it seems like we have different loading states or submission experiences for every kind of comment. And so it would be a nice thing for us to standardize that and it would improve the perception of performance, because right now only one type of comment, which is when you're submitting a regular comment. So I don't think it even includes the replying to a thread. It's the only case where we show kind of a ghost comment of what it will look like. So it might be something small for her to work on. And also there are a few other issues that I found to improve the approver visibility. And these are these issues that you see here. So basically explaining why, for example, merge request authors can't approve their merge requests, or people that have committed to a merge request cannot approve their merge requests. Today, we don't explain that. And also improving the visibility when a group is private and you can't see that group or those group members. And today it's not a good thing. So I think these are small issues that she could work on, and that could be very easy for us to implement to get her started. And then at the same time, I have these others which are more visual. One of them is to improve the MRDiff settings dropdown, which today has mixes links to edit in the single file editor or open in the web IDE, and it mixes those links with settings that you change what you're seeing in the diff. So I don't know if you're seeing the issue, but it has a video there that shows that you have like different kinds of actions, and they're not properly signaled what is going to do what. And then there's the other one, which is simplifying usage of colors and icons in the file browser, because we have like so many different colors and indicators in the file browser. And there's also that other issue that I think you commented on recently, to add vertical lines to the file browser to help understand the indentation and the folders. So that would be all part of it. But anyway, this is just to warm up Annabelle, basically. These are not very impactful issues. What I would like to decide on is, and that I marked in bold, is the big theme. And then I have a couple of other things that I think would be interesting for her to do in Q3 and Q4, like validating our jobs to be done and doing a UX scorecard that we haven't done in a very long time for code review. And finally, delegation is something that from what I gathered, the CMS, so the category maturity scorecard for the editor extension, is something that you would feel comfortable doing yourself. Is that it?
Yeah, I'm fine taking it on because it needs to get done. And not that like you don't do things for editor extension, but I do feel it's sort of like a hobby project of mine in Tomasis, and so I'm fine like having to shoulder some of that additional responsibility of the hobby project. So it's fine.
No, that's fair, and it might help gather like build a business case to invest more in it as well.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I'll want your guidance on, and we'll discuss any issues, sort of like, I know for like the thing, we only have to do one job to be done. And I could, it's very easy to game the category maturity scorecard process as someone who has gamed it previously. Like I know this. So we just may need to be cautious about how we do it and test in this instance where we've never really validated sort of anything in the extension. But we'll have to discuss that more.
Cool. Yeah, we're at time. I don't know if you have a few more minutes or if you have to jump to another call.
Let me hang on. Yeah, I can do like 5 more. I think the only thing, I know you bolded this twice, is like the big theme. I think my only question is going to be, do we need to do feature work for like the next year? Which would be sort of like in a big theme, or could we just continue to focus on like performance and usability in a way that's like not wrapped up in our feature work or other things? And I think some of the big themes like allow us more flexibility in that. But I think that's where I'm sort of struggling right now, is like one of the last things James said before he left was, he's like, you could probably spend a year and not add any more features to code review, and that would be equally as valuable as like anything else you might do, given like all of the opportunity we have to sort of just make that experience better. And so I've been like, it was sort of nice to like do the large MR work and like see the team rally behind that. I'm sort of excited to get into the mergeability and like the merge widget work, because I feel like those things are just sort of like the long overdue refactoring and efforts that we need. And so I'm conflicted about more feature work, sort of in general, as it stands. And so like, I don't know, like Q3, based on the way things are, like we're focused on mergeability and the merge widget. Like those are the two, that is sort of like already the big theme. The question is like, do we want to layer in feature work among that work, like an additional sort of theme for Q3, or should we be talking more along the lines of like Q4, maybe at this point? So I don't, yeah, it's something to think about, and I guess to give you sort of like frame of reference. And I need to respond to you in the spreadsheet. I haven't given it much
That's
thought or
okay.
time as much as you have, and so like I just I haven't gotten there yet.
That's okay. Thanks for the transparency. Yeah, so yeah, what I would like to do with the big themes is more or less what you saw with the request attention. Although the request attention was something that was very narrow, or narrower than what I would like. But it was just all of that exploration and all of that validation to come to something that we can now break down into whatever steps we want and implement things iteratively, and also decide on what is the ideal iteration path based on what we want to learn. If we're just going to ship this to learn, and then we will wait 2 milestones to make a decision if we're going to proceed with it or not. So, and that is related to what you were just saying about, hey, do we want new feature work or do we want usability? So so we can postpone this conversation about deciding, hey, what is the big theme that Peter is going to be working on in Q3, or Annabelle, or for the next months. We can postpone that, because I completely understand that neither you and I probably have the time or the mindset right now to decide that. But coming back to your point about usability and feature work, I added this column right now about type of work. And I'm adding what I think is the kind of work that, or the majority of the work that we would be doing, what it would be. And for example, extending code intelligence, or allowing you to navigate the whole repo inside of a merge request, or commenting on other files, that would be feature addition. Or MR exclusions, that would be a feature addition. But then all of this is just usability, and it's the foundation to improve the merge request UI as a whole, navigating commits, navigating files, navigating threads. And it's basically the work that I feel we need to do to continue the work that Sanjung started, because she was hitting a lot of walls with that work of the sticky header. Because she said, okay, we'll add these buttons, but then we still have those other buttons and that other bar and that other bar, and it's just a mess. And it looks like we have too many buttons for different things, and it's just leads to a more cluttered UI. So this would be mostly usability. And then we have these ones which are just templates, options, configurations, and settings, which would be feature additions, finding appropriate reviewers, feature edition, finding the MRs that need my attention would be, I think, improvements to the existing flow once we release the require my attention. What other things can we do to improve how quickly people get to their merge requests and even the merge requests list, the dashboard. Feature edition, commit by commit, co-review, and cross-project MRs. And then this one, which is to add value to our batch comments feature with other options and things that people could do, feature edition. And then finally, reducing confusion on comments and threads. And there are many small but important issues here that would be just usability.
I think that in your framing of like saying more about like the research and design work and less about the delivering of that work helps too. I think that takes some of maybe the pressure off that I was feeling about how we were thinking about this. So I agree. We need to figure out where to invest. With that lens, it makes more sense to think about this. Where do we invest your time and my time and thinking, and not necessarily like engineering time and doing? And so that's that's a helpful lens.
No, yeah.
It's more about like that piece than the like the doing piece. Because I was trying to figure out how do we balance these in like the doing of the other things we're doing. But you're right; these are good times to do these things because I don't know if you felt this way. I felt during Q2 that like I didn't have not a lot, like because they were focused on performance, it did free me up to sort of like do other things and go spend more time looking at what other groups and stages were doing. And I imagine Q3 will be a little bit less like that because you'll have to be more involved and think. I'm very terrified about the merge button and all the work we're going to do there. So like, lots of review time, but like, we might have more of that time just to like, trying to get ahead of milestone, which is something we've talked about before and never been able to do. So I think trying to get ahead of quarter is a good path to that. So that's helpful to me. So I appreciate you reframing that.
Yeah, thanks for also summarizing my attention, because that's exactly it. It's just staying ahead and breaking down these problems and validating them and the solutions, so that engineering has prediction and we all have predictability of what we will be working on and what problems we will be solving. And so that people can be in a problem space for like a quarter, like 3 milestones, for example, like working on a specific feature while shipping iterative things each month, but always in the same problem space. Because that's what I feel we've been lacking, is focusing on one thing for a certain time period. We've always been jumping from one feature to the next. Yeah,
as opposed to all of our half-finished epics. We
exactly. That's, if you want to look at it that way, it would be closing epics. And take your time to look at this. I have my favorites. If you want, I can mark them of what I think we should do. But at this time, I'm not going to put any biases on you. So I'll let you look into that and we can discuss it later.
Okay, awesome. Well, I appreciate you sharing this, Pedro. This makes sense in terms of I think what the next at least quarter looks like and sort of how you're allocating your time. I'm excited that Annabelle will be on board as well to help as we enter 14.3. So that'll be awesome too. So thank you.
Yeah. My idea is to have both of us since you now are going to have two designers, is to have each one of us working on a separate theme, which should probably give enough work for then engineering to work on after that.
Yep. Cool.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks, Kai.
Well, I appreciate it. Yep. Have a good one.
Yeah, you too. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.